Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast, where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture. We talk to producers all over the country, from small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations. Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades, we hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs. Here's your host, Troy McClung.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Pastured Pig Podcast. Excited to be back with another episode. Today, we've got another interview with a fellow pig farmer. This time, we're talking with Jake Miller at Outwest Farms in Oklahoma. And Jake has an interesting twist. He's actually using his hogs in a rotational process. Kind of follows the Salatin model, but of course has the hogs incorporated into that rotation as well, which is kind of a unique twist on that. And he explains how that helps them actually reclaim some old worn-out pasture that's hard pan. So we'll get into that interview right now, and I'll catch you guys on the backside. Tell us a little bit about Outwest Farms. Give us the 40,000-foot elevation of what's going on over there.
We're a 75-acre pig, cattle, and sheep and chicken farm. We sell direct to the public. Every animal that we raise gets sold by the pound. We go to a USDA inspected processor. That's about 2 hours away from us. Our hogs are fed a non-GMO grain. Currently, we're trying to expand because due to the demand that has come lately, almost everybody that I know is either trying to expand, and so our farm is trying to double our inventory. Right now, we're trying to add in some walk-in freezers to include that demand, but we're just growing like most pastured farms are right now.
Okay. All right, good. There's a lot there. Let's back up and unpack some of that. So you mentioned you're in eastern Oklahoma and on 75 acres, and you're doing polyculture there. So you're kind of hitting the highlights of the protein. So
Yep.
How are you balancing your all your different livestock, your cattle, your sheep, your pigs, your chicken? Are they integrated with one another? Do you have them separate in different areas on that 75 acres?
Yeah, we're doing kind of like what Joel Salatin does, the rotation. So we start off with our cattle, and then our chickens are free range, and then we'll come in behind it with the pigs, and we're starting to see behind them. So everything's kind of working together on our property.
Interesting. So you're incorporating the pigs into the rotational process with the cattle and the chickens?
Yeah, on most pastures, there's a few that we won't. But whenever we bought the place about 15 years ago, it was real trashy and it hadn't been taken care of. So a lot of the pastures were just solid ground. There was really no topsoil left. So the pigs have been able to kind of stir that ground up, and between them and the cows and the chickens, they're able to kind of add more manure, and we're starting to build topsoil back onto our ground.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah. Seeing the Salatin model, he keeps his pigs off his cattle pasture, but that's interesting, knowing that your ground is so rough and so lacking organic material. There, you're actually having them come in and till it up so they can help churn all that in. Yeah,
the idea we got from that was from Jordan Green. We watched whenever we first started doing this about 2 years ago. Started doing pigs. We saw how he was doing pastures and stuff.
Yeah. So
we started copying a lot of the things we saw him doing.
Yeah. We had Jordan on the podcast earlier this year, actually.
Yeah.
Cool. So, so you said cattle, then chicken, then pigs, and did you say you're wrapping up with sheep coming through, or what was the fourth?
The sheep, they run with the cows.
Okay.
We don't have a ton of sheep. Our main thing is cows and pigs and a little bit of chicken.
Okay. All right. So in that rotational process, are you rotating through the same pasture multiple times in the season, or just one time, or how's that shape out calendar-wise?
Yeah, we usually run through there at least 2 to 3 times during the summertime. So a 6-month period from spring to fall. We'll usually try, because with 75 acres, that's not a ton of land. Because like people like Greg Judy, he'll maybe touch it once a year with cattle, and he moves on. But since we've only got 75 acres right now, which part of our cattle also run with a friend on his land, so we're able to do more with 75 acres with our pigs and cows.
So how many head are you talking between your cattle and pigs then?
Right now with pigs, I've got 70 pigs, but probably between now and the first of the year, I've got to get that number, because we buy feeder pigs off a friend that we have. So between now and then, I'm hoping to be somewhere around 200.
Wow.
Because of the amount of demand that I've got to keep up with. And then with cattle, we work with a friend that has over 600 mama cows. So we get his calves and we finish them on grass. So right now we got about 20 to 30 steers, but he also does grass only, so we're able to kind of work with him on the cattle.
Wow, excellent. That's a big operation. That's a big jump too, from 70 to 200 head of swine. That's a big move.
Yeah, and we've been trying, because we had just gotten into a big farmers market in our state. So before this even happened, we were planning on growing, because we've only been doing this. We marked our 1-year anniversary back in February, but we started off with only 3 pigs, and we've slowly over the year been building up to the 70, and now we're about to bump up to probably 150, 200.
All right, now wait a minute. We got to back up here. So you just started with pigs a year ago, and
a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay, all right. So that's what a great testimony to expansion there. That's gone that well. So let's back up further. Do you have previous experience in farming? Is this totally new for you to come from a family of farmers? How does this work out?
My family is not farmers. My dad he's a part of the business. Whenever I graduated from college 2 years ago with a bachelor's degree, I was trying to find a job. I really couldn't find anything because I wanted to stay around Oklahoma. My bachelor's degree is in criminal justice. So almost everything that I wanted to do was in Washington, D.C. But we'd had the farm. We had moved out there whenever I was about 12, and I'd always liked working out there. So I was trying to find a way to make money on the farm to be able to stay around Oklahoma and to have a family business with my dad. So I came across Joel Salatin's books and started reading about what he was doing and how he was able to sell meat to the public. So I started diving into that, and I found out that if you got it USDA inspected and all that you could sell meat by the pound, because around Oklahoma, almost everybody does halves or quarters or whole beef. That's how people, but then there's a large segment that doesn't have the freezer space, because in Oklahoma, there's very few farms that sell direct to consumers. So we started researching how to do that. And then I found out that people would, if they wanted a pound of ground beef, they'd also want a pound of bacon. So we had never had pigs before. Growing up, we'd only done cattle and goats. So I got my first 3. I'd gotten large black piglets off a guy on Craigslist I guess it's been 2 years ago, and just started working with them, figuring out how to deal with pigs. And I've tried almost every breed of pig there is, trying to find the right one for us.
Yeah.
And so I started off with the large blacks, ended up they were too fatty for what we wanted and our consumer wanted. So then I tried a large black Duroc cross, and that got a little bit closer, but we had started selling to the public by then. Got inspected and used a local USDA and processor. and people were still saying it was a little too fatty. And so we finally got into Berkshire, which is what we use now. And it's kind of the breed that we want. So over this last year, from when we started, we've grown from 3 pigs to right now on farm I've got 70. So.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's great. So it sounds like there was obviously farming experience in the family. This wasn't 2 years ago you put down a desk job and picked up a pitchfork and decided to farm. So it sounds like you've got some.
It was pretty close like that, because we had land, the 75 acres, but like my dad, he's not a farmer. We might have a few animals, but neither of us have a livestock background, no agricultural degree. It's all from reading and experience.
All right. So it sounds like obviously you graduated from college. I'm assuming you're probably in your mid-20s. Is that fair to say?
Yep, I just had a birthday. I'm 29 right now.
All right. Well, happy birthday. So looking at that, is this a full-time gig for you right now? So family to support, that type of thing? Are you working part-time somewhere or full-time somewhere?
Nope, this is my full-time job.
Right.
I'm not married right now, but before we had launched this off the ground and it started being a full-time job, I was a manager at a store. But as soon as this really picked off, I quit there and did this full-time, and it's been almost about the year since we started.
Yeah. So you had mentioned chickens, and I know obviously we're going to stick with pigs and talk about it. Just curious though. So with your chickens, are you doing egg layers? Are you producing broilers? Are you doing both?
Right now we're just doing laying hens.
Okay.
But I was planning on starting to do meat chickens this year, and started working on it, and then the whole processor problem happened. Yeah. So even if I did meat birds right now, I couldn't get them, because in Oklahoma there's a limit, I think, of 1,000 birds you can do on farm.
Right. Yeah.
And the birds can't leave the farm, so I have to haul them to a USDA inspected processor, and there's not one in the state of Oklahoma that does chickens.
Yeah.
And the closest one is in Arkansas, and they're booked up, I think, until like 2021.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going around.
So chicken has to wait for now.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you got plenty to work on in the interim.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like you're sitting around twiddling your thumbs.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the land a little bit, because you've intrigued me. So 75 acres again in West Virginia. That's a nice tract of land. In Oklahoma, that I know that's a little bit on the small side. But you talked about it kind of being fallow or kind of being in bad shape. So give me the history of the land a little bit and lead up to infrastructure you have in place now.
Yeah. Whenever we bought the land about 15 years ago, it really only had one old metal barn, which it's still there. We've done a few improvements, but the fencing was all broken down, and didn't have any, because we use electric fence for all of our animals, didn't have any of that ran. So the infrastructure was pretty well gone. They hadn't ran animals on it in probably 30 to 40 years, because the guy that was there before us, he had just ran the whole property down, the house. So we had to go in and gut everything, and they had just piles of trash sitting in pastures. And this isn't on the land, but in this one garage, they had put these old freezers and stuffed them full of meat, and then they had just left and abandoned the place. So one day we had to go in, pull out all those old freezers, and that was horrible. But the place was just not taken care of, but we went in and cleaned everything up, and so we've slowly been putting on more infrastructure. We built a barn. We built onto that barn, and we're about to build on a bigger storage area for our freezers. And then we built some small. We buy those Porta Hut barns for our pigs. That way they're mobile and we can move them around.
Yeah.
And then we've installed an electric fence around the perimeter, and every pasture that we run is the word is leaving me, but every pasture has electric fence. But it's just been a slow process. And we've just been slowly adding more pastures that we run animals. Because like right now we're only using about 40 acres of it. The other 35 is the other 25, 35 is a valley, and then the rest we just haven't fenced yet.
Wow. Okay. Well, that was going to be my next. Again, being a West Virginian Appalachian guy, when I think of Oklahoma, I think of tabletop flat. So, so with the topography of your land, you explained a little bit of that. So, is that 75 acres all usable? Can you expand to utilize all 75, or is there some that you're not going to be able to use?
Yeah, we're at, in the part of Oklahoma that we're at, the flat area is more in western Oklahoma.
Okay.
We're kind of in the outskirts of the Ozarks.
Oh, all right, yeah.
So, because Cleveland is about 35 minutes west of Tulsa, so we're in kind of we have hills, and it's not just flat. So the 75 acres, it has a valley on it. Our eventual plan is to try to use that valley and put the pigs in there, but we just got to get that fenced off first.
Yeah.
But we've got room to expand because they're in our county that we live in. There's a lot of lease land. So one of the other things that we're trying to work on right now is eventually to get more lease land. That way we can have everything kind of working together and have more land to operate on.
Yeah. Yeah, excellent. So the farm sounds like it was in rough shape, and man, I know what that's like when you first got it. But it did have electricity. It had water on it. It had was the house livable? Did you guys fix it up? Are you living in the house now?
Yeah, the place, it wasn't livable whenever we first got there, but we had completely gutted the inside, and yeah, we've lived there for now. It took us about 2 years to make it livable. My family's lived on that property for about 13 years now.
Yeah, okay. Great.
So, but the whole like what we use for the animals, we use a well that we drilled probably about 8 years ago. But the house uses rural water, but everything has electricity and all that jazz.
Yeah, okay. So it sounds like you're taking a rough piece of property that you guys have invested a lot of time and sweat equity in to get that cleaned up, and it sounds like there's some great expansion opportunities there. As sounds like you're going to need them soon too.
Because it seems like local food is finally getting a chance to expand, and because most of our customers they've tried it once, and we're now getting 2 and 3 orders from them from the same customer. So,
wow. All right. Well, cool. Yeah, I want to talk about your marketing and your retail points here in a second. But a couple questions as we get into. You'd mentioned that you had evolved quickly through breed selection. That you started out with the large blacks and kind of tested. So what was your testing on that to land on the Berkshire? Was it just simply feedback from your customers, explain fat content, or did you have other characteristics, how they worked on pasture, all that? Any other thing that you used in your selection process?
No, as far as the pig goes, the large black could probably be an easier pig to deal with than to raise. But as far as our taste and customers, because I could raise the large black, but if people don't want to buy it, then it's kind of for nothing. But we had started selling the large black, selling that meat, and we had thought it was too fatty, and that we'd rather have a pig with more meat because it had a lot of fat on it, and that's okay for some people, but we prefer because like with the Berkshire, we've tried them out now, and that's pretty much the main breed that we're using on farm. And they have a less fat, but they got good intermuscular fat, and it's a good taste and quality. So we've tried large blacks, Durocs, tried a few blue butts. I've tried a few GOSs. I think that's about it. I've tried a few red wattles.
Yeah.
And pretty much everything is over that time. We've decided to keep with the Berkshire, but it's not a straight Berkshire. It has Yorkshire in it, and then the other breed that he uses is Landrays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned, so that was going to be my next question. So are you working with another farm when it comes to breeding, or are you guys farrowing on farm, or how's that working out?
Yeah, right now we buy piglets from a friend of ours that mills our feed. He mills our non-GMO feed, and we buy piglets from him. But here in the next 3 to 4 months, I'm looking for breeding stock right now. I'm hoping to get our own breeding stock, and because our amount of piglets that we're starting to go through, pretty soon he's not going to be able to keep up, because he's got a contract with the company that he sells piglets to. So we get whatever extras he gets, and we get them. So
yeah, so you're not 100% certain that he'll be able to
meet
the demand. Yeah,
because one day the demand could go up with that company, and since he's got a contract and we don't, the piglets could go to that contract that he's got, and then we could be. It hasn't happened yet, but in the long term, I think we'll be better off once we start farrowing our own pigs.
Yeah, it's good to have that redundancy too. If in the grand scheme of things, if farrowing doesn't go well, or you just don't produce the litters you need, then he'll be there with his overrun as well. But I agree, this open-ended non-contract could put you in a bind if you needed more at a certain time.
Yeah, and plus, then we have control for the most part over our genetics and what we're using, because he raises what we like, but we want to try to add in some different breeds because we want to do Berkshire, but then we want to try a few different breeds to see if mixing them with the Berkshire makes a better tasting pig, and whereas he has to stick to what he's doing.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, you'd mentioned non-GMO feed that your pig suppliers is grinding your feed for. So tell us about that process and the genesis of that. What led you to go with non-GMO?
When I first started about 2 years ago, we started just using regular grain that I had at a local store. But then customers started continuing. Once we started selling the meat, customers asked if we were non-GMO. And in the state of Oklahoma, there's really no company that sells locally. The closest that'll sell like bagged non-GMO feed is over in Arkansas. So we started looking around trying to find someone that did non-GMO that we could buy feed off of, because of our customers asking if we were non-GMO or not. So we eventually found the guy that we use for pigs now. We found him through the farmers market that we're about to be a part of, and they were about to get out. So he has a big farm out in far eastern Oklahoma, close to the Arkansas border. So we talked to him, and he had always milled his own feed. He gets a lot of the components from Kansas, and they bring them down to him. So then he takes care of a lot of smaller farms, and he'll mill them feed. So we started buying off of him. And so eventually what we want to do is start milling our own feed. But for right now, the cost of equipment, and it just kind of limits us from doing that. But probably in the next 1 to 2 years, we're going to start milling our own feed.
Yeah, wow.
But he uses Milo and a few other things but it's all non-GMO. He also offers laying hen feed and meat birds non-GMO feed.
Yeah, but good deal. So it sounds like customer demand is what pushed you that way, finding a niche. Not a lot of people selling non-GMO raised.
Because in this state there's very I can think of maybe 5 or 6 that are doing non-GMO feed. They either buy from the guy that we're using or they milk themselves.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
so it's all about customer demand.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. You gotta go with what your market's looking for. So
Yep.
let's talk about that market for a bit. So you've mentioned just now getting in a farmer's market. That sounds like that's going to be a big game changer and the reason you're ramping up. But where else and how else have you been selling to get this growth that you're experiencing?
We've been doing home deliveries, free home deliveries for the year that we've been open, and it's really taken off with the Corona thing. People really don't want to leave their house, so we have a website where they can go and order directly from us, and we deliver it to their home for free. And we've also used our Facebook page, which we have a pretty good follow. We've got almost 7,000 likes on our Facebook, so that's how we get a lot of our a lot of people know about us. But our website is also how you can order, and we deliver pretty much all over the state of Oklahoma. So like Tulsa, Oklahoma City, since we're pretty centrally located, we're about 45 minutes away from Tulsa, about an hour and 30 minutes away from Oklahoma City. So we've mainly been doing everything before we got into the farmer's market. Everything has been through Facebook and our website as far as the way people know about us and word of mouth. But now at the Tulsa Farmers Market, that'll give us another opportunity to see a segment of people that might have not ever heard of us.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I got to ask you some questions about this delivery service, because that's an incredible value-added service that even pre-corona that's a great service to offer. Like you said, right now during the pandemic and in the waning parts of the pandemic, that's still resonating with people. So how does that become cost effective for you guys? Do you set minimums? Do you have just so much volume that it makes sense when you drive a loop that you're kind of covering everything? Have you done a cost analysis of that?
Yeah, we got to order minimum $50, just that way nobody can be like, well, I want a dozen eggs.
Right. Yeah.
But whenever, like today, I'm making deliveries. We'll try to do a central area. So like today is Tulsa, and then tomorrow is Oklahoma City. So if I'm in that area, I can hit up in a day. Like today, I'm doing, I think, 20 to 30 orders, delivering them.
Wow.
So by doing that amount of volume, it's paying for the gas, and with the $50 minimum, it's making it cost effective. And now we bought a van for deliveries that's really good on fuel. So between those three things, it makes it cost effective, and it's a service that I think almost every farm, because we're eventually planning on starting to try to do shipping. That way, if you're outside of the area that we drive to, you can still, because we got a pretty strong demand for people that are like, if you ever want to start shipping, we'll order. So
yeah,
in the next, once we have more inventory capacity, more inventory storage capacity, we'll start trying to do shipping, and that'll reach another group of people. But the delivery, most farms will only do, you got to either come to the farm or go to the farmer's market, and that's the only way you can get their products. But if you offer the free delivery, then people, it's a lot more convenient. They're a lot more willing to try something that's more expensive than the grocery store if they can get it delivered to their house for free.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely going to resonate more with people. And it was interesting, you talked about shipping. It may have been Jordan we were talking to. I'm trying to remember who we spoke with specifically about shipping, how that's opened up their market. And, of course, Polyface Farms included shipping just in the last year. The technology and the reduced cost that can be found now with the shipping services, getting your product into major urban areas that you wouldn't necessarily have to drive to. So I want to talk a little bit about your van, because I think it's interesting. It seems like every interview we have, there's always something unique about each operation, and hopefully people are gleaning little nuggets of information from all these discussions. So So when you wanted to find a van, obviously that was fuel efficient. Is this a reefer? Is it just something you pack in ice? Do you have a freezer that you keep in it? Explain the van. Tell us what the van is and how you have that set up.
We bought a 2018 Ford Transit van.
Okay.
It's just a little van that has a big cargo space. So we'll stack our coolers in there, and everything's already pre-frozen. And with the amount of distance we go, we bag everything. And so the coolers, we stack them in here, and that way we can sort through the orders, and that way everything's kept cool because we had thought about getting a reefer truck, but with how short of a distance we drive for deliveries. But whenever we go and pick up meat from the processor, we're about to start renting there's a company in Tulsa that'll rent reefer trucks to you. So we're looking into starting to do that, because every time we go and pick up meat from the processor, it's way too much to fit in our little transit van. But for daily delivery, we just use coolers.
Yeah. So how long, you talked about you're doing deliveries today. So how long is your day in deliveries to do those 20 plus orders that you have today?
I started at about 8 this morning to start doing deliveries, and I'll get done at about 4 or 6 p.m.
Yeah.
Since I try to do one area a day, it kind of limits the area, and I can knock out 20 to 30 orders in that single day. So
I see. And you're even taking time to talk to me right in the middle of deliveries too. So that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's a good deal. All the energy of youth.
Yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So you're processing right now. I still want to come back to this farmer's market. So we'll stick a pin in that for now. But with your processing, how many hogs are you currently processing in a batch? How often are you processing, and how much is that going to have to step up?
Right now I'm getting, how many am I hauling next? I'm hauling 8 next week, but that's the only reason I'm hauling 8 is because that's what they're limiting me to right now.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But because I can't schedule anymore because they're booked.
Mm-hmm.
But starting the next month in July, I'll be hauling 11 hogs, and by next year I'm going to be doing either 15 or 20 hogs a month. So, and then we do about 4 to 6 steers a month.
Yeah. So are you finding, so you're looking at that monthly, so you're doing a monthly processing run, and you already answered the question that we're running into in West Virginia is just these smaller processors just getting absolutely slammed. Fortunately, I'm scheduled for mine when I wanted to, but now they're out into winter of 2021 in these areas simply because of this demand is getting out of control. So it sounds like you've got a good processing system set up there. So you said it's 2 hours over, 2 hours back. You're doing 8 hogs this next run, but you're going to be doing a certain batch each month. Is that correct?
Yeah, each month we haul a batch of hogs. So it's slow like this past month we did 7, so we're slowly starting to get more dates. So by the end of summer I should be somewhere, I think I have scheduled either 11 or 15 hogs. But our processors are pretty new. They're with the Quapaw Nation in Oklahoma. They were built back in 2016, so they're almost a brand new facility.
Yeah, wow.
So.
And they are USDA. That's nice to have a USDA processor that close.
Yeah, because it allows me to ship. Because they're state inspected in Oklahoma, but that would only allow me to sell in the state of Oklahoma. But since I get USDA, it also allows me to start doing the shipping to other states.
Yeah. That's it's a similar situation in West Virginia. We have state inspected, and that's where I'm hanging out right now, simply because USDA is so far away, and right now they're booked. The ones that are available that are reputable are booked for forever, it seems like. So,
yeah, there's a big need for USDA. Like in our state, there used to be 4, but now there's only 3 USDA inspected processors, and they're all booked up until, like mine, he's now booked up until 2022. So
yeah, Interesting. So backing up real quick, so with these batches that you're taking, are you keeping these hogs separate on the farm? Do you have 6 or 7 months worth of batches of hogs that you're rotating through, or do you have them all integrated and you just know, okay, these are the ones I'm taking, these are the ones I'm not taking?
Yeah, we try to run our hogs all together, especially now once we get sows and start farrowing, they'll be a separate group. But pretty much we run all the feeder pigs together. And so we got a system whenever they start getting to the size that we want, which we process right around 300 pounds, we'll pull them off, and we just keep adding to that group because it's easier to run them and it's easier to have just one couple of, because we use the Brower field waters, so it's easier just to run everything together, run our feeder together, have one big group, and then we just pull off what we need and keep the group running. The bigger ones will kind of show the smaller pigs about the electric fence. We really don't have any escapees, knock on wood.
Right.
But it kind of works out good for us,
Great.
Running them all in one group.
So your identification process, I mean, I like the idea of running them in one group. Your identification process, are you just eyeballing that and saying, okay, those look like my 8 largest pigs, I think I'm going to go, or have you tagged them, have you marked them a certain way so you know what batch they came out of?
No, it's pretty just as simple as I'm guessing the bigger ones, and I usually get pretty close to guessing right. So.
Yeah, that comes with experience, I'm sure.
But yeah, we just pick the biggest ones, and we haul them, and they're usually, because we got, it's about every month I try to buy a new group of feeder pigs to add to the group. That way they're kind of stair-stepping. That way I've got pigs for every month.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, let's talk about that farmer's market a little bit. So this is going to be a new foray for you. So what drew you to this farmer's market? Why do you feel it's so critical, and how are you going to covering the market? It sounds like you and your dad are kind of the linchpins of this. So how are you going to cover that booth at the market?
The reason it's so important is because in the state of Oklahoma, there's a ton of little farmers market, but the farmers market's in Tulsa, and it's the biggest one in the state. And but the way that we're going to run it is we brought on 2 part-time employees, so they help. One of them helps with filling our orders, and the other one helps with our farm. So they'll help take care of the chores, and if I've got any projects that I need to be done, he helps with that. And then as far as the packing and delivering, right now we're looking for a part-time delivery driver. That way I can be at the farmer's market on Saturday, and that way we're still putting out deliveries on Saturday and on Friday during the weekend. And then, but we're mainly just sticking with part-time employees to help us with the extra work that we have right now.
Yeah. So does your dad normally, is he managing the farm through the week while you're on the road, or how does that work out?
No, my dad, he still has a full-time corporate job.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I'm handling all the farm stuff, and then my part-time employee, he takes care of like the farm chores while I'm out, because he's a high school kid.
Oh, okay.
But since it's summer break and with the Corona thing, he takes care of the morning chores and keeps checking on the animals, because he just lives right down the road from us. So
yeah, good deal. Well, it sounds like you're quite busy. Do you get any sleep actually?
Oh yeah. But it's a good busy.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt, man. I like to hear the growth that you're having. Sounds like you're expanding, but you're expanding wisely. Sounds like you're covering those points. So with the farmers market, in Tulsa being the largest, sounds like that's definitely a good market to be in. Are you looking at? I think it sounds like you're looking at tapping an audience that you haven't been able to tap into yet. But is that going to introduce new product? Are you looking at growing since you've gotten into a coveted spot there?
Yeah, we're adding on the more hogs and cattle, but as soon as I can get them processed, we're gonna add chicken onto the farm, because that's something that's probably the most requested thing that we get asked about is chicken, because since people can buy eggs and beef and pork, the main other protein is chicken. So the only thing holding us back is processing dates. As soon as I can get because I'm also looking in Texas and Kansas to try to find the processor, because eventually what our goal is to open up our own processing plant and start also opening the first poultry processor in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the friends that I have in the state that are farming, they're also, because everybody sees the need for a processor. Like the other main farm that goes to the farmer's market with us is Prairie Creek, which I think Prairie Creek Farms, which I think you've had on here before, with Nathaniel.
Yeah.
And so we're all trying to figure out how to open up another processing plant in Oklahoma.
Wow.
So the next step for our farm, I think, is to open up a processing plant. That way we can, because we can't find anywhere to process chickens.
Yeah.
So I think that in the next couple of years, I think that's our biggest goal.
Yeah, no doubt. Wow. Yeah, that would be great. I know you're probably familiar with Walt Jeffries up in Vermont, and he has an on-farm processing facility, and there's definitely a lot of merit to that of either having your own either on-farm or at least having control over one. I know Joel Salatin, I just listened to an interview with him the other day. He was talking about having partial ownership of a processing facility now in their area. So it gives you more control. Yeah. That's always been my frustration with raising pigs on pasture is you put all this work and effort into going from farrowing to finishing, and then you got to turn it over to somebody, and they can really either set you up or wreck your entire process if they do it incorrectly.
Yeah, because we've tried, just in our state, we've tried every USDA processor, and most of them do an okay job, but we tried one, he destroyed our product, didn't do a good job. So if you don't have a good processor, you can do all the work of raising the pig right, and then he can just destroy it with cutting it up wrong and not doing what you ask.
Yeah. Well,
but processing, I think, is the major problem facing most small farms right now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, this, if anything, the one of the things this coronavirus has pointed out is the fallacy of our food system and the regulation associated with it. So hopefully some wiser people will get together and help that out. But it's going to be up to us small farmers just to figure it out on our own and come up with our own solutions, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we've kind of hit. I normally ask about goals, but it sounds like we've kind of covered that. You've got a lot of irons in the fire and a lot of neat things coming down the road. Are there any other long-term goals that you're thinking about that we haven't discussed yet for the farm?
Our goals at Outwest Farms is just to grow our numbers of animals that we process, and hopefully in the next year we'll be opening up a processing plant. That way we can start taking care of our own animals and take care of the other small farms in our area. But just we're trying to grow and expand, and I think right now is the perfect time for, if you're a small farm right now, people see how bad the food supply is, and they see the opportunity for small farms.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, excellent. Well, very good. Well, Jake, I'm going to hit you with a question that I always hit everybody with, and a little existential question here is, what is your best experience or favorite part about raising pigs on pasture?
My favorite part of raising pigs is the different personalities you'll get in a pig. They're probably one of the most. We've had probably 100 pigs on farm right now through the time, and every pig has a different personality, and they'll come up to you and once you scratch them on the back of the head, it's just the interaction that you can have with the pig. Because most cattle, they don't care to be around, but most pigs, once they care to be around you, they like interacting with you.
Yeah.
So I guess my favorite part is the interaction you get with pigs.
Excellent. I like it. Very good. Very good. Well, how can, if anybody wants to learn more about your operation, how can they find you online?
You can go to our Facebook page or Instagram, and it's just Outwest Farms. Should bring you to, we should be at the top. Or you can go to our website, which is outwestfarmsok.com, and that'll take you to our website. It has all of our story about how we started, about our family, and then it also allows you to order.
Awesome. All right. Good deal. Well, man, I appreciate you taking the time from your delivery day today to come on the podcast and talk with us. Sounds like you've got some exciting things going on, and may have to have you back on next year and see if you're up to that 200 mark or if you've built a processing facility by then.
Sounds good. We appreciate it.
All right, Jake. Well, have a great day. Have safe travels on the road. All right, well, I appreciate Jake sharing his experience with us and his setup. That's always exciting to talk to producers in different parts of the country, and then of course hear how everyone's handling the current pandemic situation and how it's affecting processing and their demand on their products. As far as updates here at Red Tool House, I'll just do a quick update. We've as I'm recording this, we have just finished taking all of our hogs for the year to the processor. Again, we do seasonal, so we're done for the season. And anxious to get our hanging weights back. Our first run we've gotten back and delivered to our customers and seem to be pretty satisfied. We're going to do a full assessment of our year's production, do a cost analysis, do feed conversion, all that type of stuff. We're probably going to do that not only in a video on our YouTube channel, but we'll probably carry that over into a podcast. Podcast, of course, allows me to get much, much deeper in the weeds and get into some of those numbers, whereas the video will kind of hit the higher elevation type stuff. Well, as you've noticed, trying to get back on schedule here of doing a podcast, probably going to be every other week for a while until we get into some slower times, if there are such a thing. And honestly, until I can drum up additional interviews, I'm kind of hitting a dry spell there. So if you guys know of somebody that I haven't talked to yet and you would want to recommend it, by all means, please do. You can email me, Troy at Red Tool House, or you can use the contact form on redtoolhouse.com and suggest someone or suggest yourself. Again, you don't have to be a big producer. You don't have to have years and years of experience. We've got an interview coming up with a young lady that's just getting into it, and it's neat to hear all the different experiences. So feel free to reach out to me and let me know what I can do or how I can come up with another topic or another person to interview. I'd like to keep the process rolling if we could. Well, I hope everyone has a great week out in the pasture, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.